welcome to Mark's Random Videos. Today we're here to talk about the Snaptain SP350 again, but this time with a couple of modifications. Today we're going to talk about this, which is the £30 Amazon drone you may have seen on my previous videos. So if you're aware, this is called the Snaptain SP350. If you did see that previous video, you'll know that this is a small drone, almost a nano drone, and probably what I'll do now is put up a picture of this next to some of my more normal sized drones. So the Eachine Trashcan, for instance, is the next size up. Then I've got the Beta 85, which is again slightly bigger but still fits into that whoop category. And then I've got the iFlight Chimera 4, which is more of a normal quadcopter, as most hobbyists would kind of call that, a full-size quadcopter, not quite a 5-inch, so yeah, it's slightly smaller than usual, but it's still a proper-sized quadcopter and doesn't feature things like these guards around the propellers. So why do I want to talk about this today? Well, really the reason is that I've put this together with a FPV camera. So I've modified it with a small AIO camera. What that's giving me the ability to do is to actually fly this in full FPV mode using FPV goggles. So it's something like the Eachine EV800D, that's a sub $100 pair of FPV goggles. You can now fly this tiny little drone in FPV mode. So why is that a good thing? Well, this is basically a toy, right? As you can see, it's a tiny little quadcopter, and now with the camera on it, it does look a little bit messed up, but it's a small modification, really easy to do. Actually, what I found when I took the lid off of this, it's just simply 4 screws to remove underneath, and I'll again put up a picture of that that I took when I was in the middle of the modification. I found that there were a plus and minus, V plus and V minus, actually already down on the board, ready to be soldered into. So that was absolutely fantastic. It made installing this camera a simple case of chopping the lid slightly, chopping the front slightly to accommodate the camera lens, and then I was able to fly this immediately in full FPV mode. Now, it did cut down the battery times a little bit. If you remember from the previous video, which will be linked down in the description, we were getting 7 to 8 minutes of flight time. I'd say with this video mod, with the tiny 1S batteries that this quadcopter is using, then we're probably only getting from the 300 milliamp hours about 3 minutes. So more in line with things like the Eachine Trashcan, the Mobula 7 and other whoops. So 3 to 4 minutes of stabilized flight, and that's the key here. Because this has altitude hold, it's much easier to fly than other quadcopters, right? Normally you're very focused on keeping that throttle position in exactly the right place to give you the right height or the right amount of thrust. With this, you don't need to really worry about the throttle position too much. Once you've got it flying, it's kind of holding itself in terms of its altitude, and you're more concerned about the roll, so the turning from side to side, bit of roll, or the yaw, which is effectively the spin of the quadcopter. And this flies fantastically well, even with the extra weight of the tiny camera that's in there. Now, I actually tried 2 different cameras in this. I tried the EWRF, I believe was the manufacturer, was the first one that I tried, and that's the one that you'll see in the thumbnail that's in the picture of this. The EWRF worked really, really well, but it only worked for about 2 days and then started overheating. Now, that could have been my fault. The antenna on that one could have taken a knock. So what you'll see with this one is that I've put the antenna tilted back a bit so that it can't take so many knocks. I've also removed the internal antenna and let that come outside for the receiver so that we can get slightly longer range and have a little bit more fun when we're playing with the Snaptain SP350. So I'm going to show you quickly this flying, and then probably what we'll do is we will cut to some FPV footage. I've done quite a bit of flying with this, inside the house, outside the house, and it's actually enabled me to, become a lot more confident with FPV. So, the first time that you put on a pair of goggles and you fly as if you're inside, one of these small drones, it can be quite disconcerting. Now, I'm not going to fly this much just now. I'm just going to show you that, it's still capable of everything that it was capable of before. Very good, very easy to fly quadcopter. As he crashes it. We'll just land there. Okay, so I've explained all of this in the previous video. It's very easy to fly the Snaptain SP350, and as I just mentioned, it can be quite disconcerting putting on FPV goggles for the first time, right? Some people get motion sickness, some can't adjust to the thought that they're now a much smaller object that's flying around the place, and this has really enabled me to do that to the point where I've now been able to fly my real quadcopter, the smallest one of the four, the Eachine Trashcan. I've been able to fly that quite easily around the garden now. So, whereas before I was only flying it with what we call line of sight, where I didn't have the goggles on and I was physically able to see the quadcopter, now I'm able to fly at FPV mode. And yesterday, for the first time, I got out round the tree in the garden, over the tree in the garden with the Eachine Trashcan, because I think I was a lot more familiar with that feeling of being within FPV goggles. So, as I said, short video today, just to really get across how happy I am with this tiny little modification. To give you an idea, that's a £30 drone from Amazon with a £15 all-in-one camera that can really bring you a true FPV experience. Unfortunately, you will need some goggles. You cannot use your mobile phone for this, and I don't believe that the mobile phone really does give you that true FPV experience. So, I'd recommend the EV800D from Eachine as a good starter set of goggles. They're the ones that I'm using. I would like to upgrade in future to something a little bit better, but for all intents and purposes, apart from possibly the weight of the goggles, the Eachine EV800D have done me fantastically well as a starter goggle. Sure, we'd all like DJI digital, but I'm not quite yet there yet, and I don't think I want to invest in that until I'm confident in flying FPV. So we'll show you some footage now. Thanks for listening, thanks for joining the video. Please like and subscribe, and thank you for your time. Cheers guys, take care, bye.